stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Star Wars Canon Library. You heard the man, there were stories, and they're all true. My name's Brian, I'm the librarian here at the Canon Library, where we're keeping all the canon in chronological order for you guys. This is going to be our Monday mailbag for this week, and if you guys can't tell, I'm trying to get over something again. This is the third time in a month that I've been sick, so I'm trying to get over again. Friday, they actually sent me home from work early because I had lost my voice, so I'm slowly getting it back. I contemplated on even doing a mailbag this week, but I decided we're going to go ahead and power through this thing and see how it goes. So, guys, bear with me if my voice cracks a little bit. Bear with me if I just bear with me, please. I beg you. Like I said, guys, this is going to be our Monday mailbag episode. If you guys want to get a question on the mailbag, you guys can email it to me at starwarscanonlibrary@gmail.com. It should be right there. Go ahead and send it in. You can also contact us through the website, www.starwarscanonlibrary.com. If you guys have any questions about the website, you can go ahead and send them in from there. So without further ado, I'm going to try to go through this a little quicker just because of the way I'm feeling, and see if we can get some of these answered for you guys. So I've got 7 questions for this week. And our first question this week comes from Marcus Romero. And Marcus asks, or he wrote in, hey man, glad to see you're back at it. It's close, I almost wasn't. Love seeing new uploads from you. My question is this: considering Disney is catering to a new generation of fans now, do you think someday soon we could see a hard reboot of the franchise? Keep up the great work. Thanks for the question, Marcus. You're not wrong about the new movies are mainly for new fans. You're not wrong about that. They are changing quite a few things in the films. I mean, they're not changing anything as in like retconning, but they are kind of updating, modernizing it a little bit, and I don't see anything wrong with that, to be honest. But do I think they'll ever do a hard reboot? Man, if they do, it's going to be open war. I ain't kidding, man. Star Wars fans are going to revolt. Now, there will probably be a group of fans that would be alright with something like that. You know, like EU purists. I mean, I really don't know. I'm not an EU purist, so I don't know how one would think. But, you know, I don't think they're ever going to do it. They've gone out of their way to make this new canon, to make this new cohesive universe where everything is together, everything refers to something else. You know, everything syncs up now, and they're doing this in a way that I don't think they're going to piss it away just to reboot the entire franchise somewhere down the road. If they were going to reboot the franchise, I feel like they would have done it when Disney took over Lucasfilm, but I don't think they're ever going to do something like that. Now, if they did, is it something that I'd be interested in? Yeah, I'd give it a shot, maybe. I don't know if I would pour myself into it as much as I do now. And it wouldn't be the same, obviously. It's not like if you reboot it, it's gonna be this cultural phenomenon thing again. And I don't think it's gonna do nearly as well as what it is now. So I'm gonna say no. I don't think we'll ever, at least someday soon. You said, do you think someday soon? No, no time soon. It's not gonna be anytime soon. 40, 50 years from now, maybe, depending on how it goes now. But I can think about it. They're releasing a Star Wars movie every year from now on. Disney's already come out and said this. So if they're releasing a movie every year from now on, right now we're at 9 live action films, right? So 10 years from now, there's going to be 19 Star Wars movies. 10 years from now isn't as far away as you think it is. It really isn't. At some point, we're going to hit a mark where we're going to stop getting films for a while. Either that or they're going to fall off at the box office. After that, maybe. At first, look, if they were to do a drop off at the box office, 10, 15 years from now, I would see them stepping back and taking a break for a while first and then relaunching it again the way they did between the prequels to the sequels. But I don't think they would do a hard reboot first thing. Now, if that didn't go over well, then yeah, I could see them maybe start talking about waiting a little longer and doing a hard reboot. But, man, I don't see that happening at all. It was just, I feel like it would piss off way too many people. I think it would piss off way more people than what The Last Jedi did. And The Last Jedi really didn't piss off that many people. But it's going to be outrageous to hear the outcry if they were to ever come back and say they were going to reboot Star Wars. And if you did, where would you start? Would you start at episode 1? Would you start at episode 4? Like, where would you read? Because you don't want to do the prequel thing again. You know what I mean? Like, oh, hey, we're going to reboot Star Wars. Let's do 4, 5, and 6. Wait 16, 17 years and go back and do 1, 2, and 3 again. You're not going to want to do that. You know, if they did a hard reboot, they would almost have to start at episode 1. Either that or just completely retcon what came before for episode 1, 2, and 3 maybe and start at 4. I don't even know where they would go with it. I don't know. So that's a great question, though. It's a really good question for speculation. A lot of theories and stuff, which I'm not a fan of theories anymore because of the way people acted after Last Jedi came out. But it's something kind of, I don't want to say fun to think about, but it is something to think about. So thanks for sending in the question, Marcus. I'm glad to have you as a follower, man. All right, so going on to question number 2. And question number 2 comes from Alan Deli. I'm going to assume it's Deli because I was in the military with a guy whose last name was spelled the same way and it was Deli. So I'm going to assume it's Alan Deli. And Alan says, hey, Brian, I love your channel. I was wondering what your thoughts are on Captain Phasma and the way she was underused in the Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. I was pretty disappointed. Would love to hear your opinion. Thanks for the question, Alan. Captain Phasma was one that going into Last Jedi, even leading up to Last Jedi, I heard a lot of people talking about how they were going to fix the way Phasma was used in Force Awakens and how they marketed her so much and then just didn't use her hardly at all. And they kept talking about how they were going to fix that with this new movie and with Phasma. And I mean, they gave her a novel, they gave her a 4-issue comic series, you know, and everybody's like, all right, we're going to see some Phasma. And then you get the trailer for Last Jedi and you see her fighting Finn and you're like, oh man, this is going to be great. And then she's got less screen time in Last Jedi as she did in Force Awakens. And I was one from the get-go going, oh, they're going to use Phasma better. They're going to use Phasma better. And I was wrong. They really didn't. It's kind of, I don't want to use the word cop-out. But I'm right there with you. I was pretty disappointed in the way they used Phasma. Especially, and I should have seen the red flags going into Last Jedi with the comic and the novel. Because the comic and the novel, I wasn't really big fans of. I kind of liked the comic book a little bit. The first issue was a little rough. I mean, I take that back. The first issue was really good, and then it got a little rough after that. But the novel I didn't care for hardly at all. I didn't feel like Star Wars to me. They gave, if you guys haven't read it, this could be spoilery, but if you guys haven't read Phasma, they gave Phasma kind of this, I don't want to say medieval, more of a Viking background than anything. If you've read the novel, you know what I'm talking about. And they gave her this like Viking background that really didn't feel like Star Wars at all. The best parts of the Phasma novel were the present day stuff with Captain Cardinal, and the Rebel, and her name's escaping me at this moment. But when he was interrogating her, and then it goes back to the Rebel telling the story of Phasma. That was really the best parts of that book. And I wanted more of Captain Cardinal than I did more of Captain Phasma. But I was very disappointed with the way they used her in Last Jedi. I was really looking forward to that Finn Phasma fight. Now, I did call it before the film came out. I said one of them was not going to walk away from that fight. But I was wrong. I really thought it was going to be Finn be the one to go down. Because I really didn't think they were going to kill Phasma off that quick. And you know, and well, that's assuming that she died. I'm assuming she did, right? Okay, so that just based off what we know so far, I'm not making any like hardcore assumptions. I mean, Phasma could pop up at 9 with new armor and scars for all I know, you know. So, but to use her like that, people said she was going to be the Boba Fett of this trilogy, and she kind of was. Like, she got taken out almost the exact same way as Fett did in Return of the Jedi. So, Do I hope we see more of Phasma? To be honest, I'm kind of indifferent about it considering the way she's been used so far. If I had to put money on her coming back, I'm going to say no, because then it's going to take away from the gravity of that fight with Finn and Phasma, which actually was really short to begin with, but that was really Finn fighting his demons, his past. You know, now that Phasma's gone, his past is dead, I guess is the way he would be looking at it. So, yeah, I was very disappointed with the way it turned out, and doesn't take away from the movie, though. Now, I do say Last Jedi is a perfect movie, in my opinion. Remember, that's just my opinion. That doesn't make me right. That doesn't make me wrong. It's just my opinion. But that is something, I didn't mind it the way they did it, but I do wish they would have done it differently a little bit, if that makes sense. So, thanks for the question, Alan. Glad to have you on board, bud. All right, question number 3. This one came from Brittany C. Her email didn't have a last name. It just said C. So I wish I had your last name that I could put on here, but I'm sorry, Brittany, I can't. But Brittany C. asks, I was wondering if you could explain the difference between films and novels as far as canon goes. In the novel for The Force Awakens, Rey and Poe meet for the first time. Then in The Last Jedi, Rey and Poe meet for the first time. What is the deal? That's an excellent question, Brittany, and one that I've seen a lot of people on Facebook kind of wondering about, and they actually say that's something wrong with Last Jedi is because that scene's in it, because it was in the novel before. You got to keep in mind something before I go into the difference between canon and or between the novels and the films. Not everybody reads the books. Okay, there's several people who do, but not everybody reads the books. General movie-going audience doesn't read the books. Star Wars sweaties, like you and me, we read the books. So we knew that was like, wait a minute, didn't that happen like in Force Awakens? But I'm with you there. I was kind of, when I watched The Last Jedi for the first time, that was kind of jarring to me just because I had read the Force Awakens novel. And even going up to Last Jedi, I had talked about, I believe me and Chris have talked about this a lot, about how Rey and Poe are going to be the ones that get together because of that scene in Force Awakens in the novel. Everybody's talking about how they want Poe and Finn to be the first gay couple in Star Wars, and I told you it wasn't going to happen. So the difference between films and novels as far as canon goes, and this situation is a perfect example of it, right? This is the way it goes. Anything in the films trumps the novel, okay? If something happens in a novel that's not in a film, it is canon. If something happens in the novel that happens in the movie, both are canon, obviously. It's canon, right? It's in both. As far as dialogue goes, if the film has a certain line of dialogue and then the novel has a different line of dialogue, the film trumps the novel, okay? And that's just the way it's always been. Now, that brings up another thing that a lot of people ask, and are these novels canon? These novels are the prequels, right? No, they're not. I know they're printed by Del Rey, but they're not actually canon. They're like canon adjacent, right? So with the novels that are coming out now, deleted scenes from the movies are canon as long as they're in the novel, right? With those books, the prequel novels, those are not canon, all right? What happens in the movie, that part of the book is canon, but anything else that didn't happen in the movie in those novels is not canon. So it's kind of a weird difference between the canon slate wipe and post-canon slate wipe. It's a little different. But going back to the Rey and Poe thing, the reason everybody keeps asking about this, and Brittany, I know you already know this, otherwise you wouldn't be asking the question, but for those of you that don't know, what she's talking about is at the end of the novel for The Force Awakens, Rey and Poe meet for the first time. And it goes the exact same way it does in The Last Jedi. He walks up to her and he says, "Hi, I'm Poe," and she smiles at him and says, "I'm Rey," and he's like, "I know." And that's the way it goes. And I mean, it's literally exactly how it goes in The Force Awakens novel. And then you get The Last Jedi, and they meet for the first time again, right? So that would make the films trumping the novels. So that means they didn't meet in Force Awakens the way the novel said they did. So the film trumps. Now, the reason everybody is confused who's read the novels is because they didn't understand that, or they didn't know that. I don't want to say they didn't understand it, because that implies that they can't comprehend it. I'm not implying that at all. But because that happened in Last Jedi, that part of the novel has been, I guess you could say, retconned. Okay, I mean, that's essentially what it is. Okay, and the reason they did it, and I can tell you exactly why they did it, and it's because not everybody reads the books. Okay. Some people just watch the films, and then they go and start saying, oh, Poe and Finn are going to get together. No, they're not. They didn't in the novel. It's Rey and Poe. And because not everybody reads the books, they wanted to put that to rest, and so they just transferred that scene from Force Awakens novel onto screen in The Last Jedi, which tells me that it's not going to have that much of a bearing going forward in the story. Rey and Poe might end up getting together for episode 9, but it's not going to have that much bearing, because if it did, they would have touched on those two kind of hooking up in Last Jedi, referring to when they met in the novel. But because not everybody read the novel, not everybody going into it knew that Poe and Rey at that point had that interaction. So they went ahead and put it in Last Jedi, canceling out that first interaction, and now we're going to move forward. Now it's public knowledge. Even if you don't read the books, everybody knows Rey and Poe are probably going to get together. So I hope that answers your question as far as what's canon and what isn't. And it goes for the same thing as comics also. Because there are some things that happen in the comics, like the perfect example is the comic adaptations of the films, Rogue One and Force Awakens. We haven't got the one for Last Jedi yet. Excuse me. So those have quite a few differences in them as far as dialogue goes, which means the film trumps. Now, as far as the Rogue One comic goes, it has got a lot more... I don't want to say a lot more. It's got a few extra scenes in it that weren't in the novel or the movie. So those scenes are canon. Those are canon, all right? Until something comes along and says they're not. That's all there is to it. So you kind of got to take it as we go and kind of roll with the punches and go with the flow and kind of see where it goes, and think they're still very young in this new canon, all right? Everybody wants to shit on it all the time. We're still very young in this new canon. Like, that's all we've got so far. I don't know if you guys can see this behind me, this bookcase. This is all we've got as canon so far. And that's not everything. I don't have all the TPBs. My long box with my comics is right here, and it's damn near full. So there's a lot of stuff that's not on that shelf that is canon, but it's still very young, and they're still working their way through it and sorting out where they want to go with this. And, is it as good as the EU? I don't know. I've only read parts of the EU. But from what I've read so far, I'm loving what I'm reading. I'm loving it, especially when you get little references like Admiral Ray Sloan. She keeps popping up in all these different places. It's nice to see a consistent character throughout the new canon timeline. So I hope that answers your question about the difference between novels and films, even as far as comics go, stuff like that. So thanks for the question, Brittany. I really do appreciate you sending it in. Question number 4 this week, guys, comes from Cameron Dyers. I believe I said your last name right. And Cameron says, on your last mailbag, you said you've seen The Last Jedi 11 or 12 times. That is true. I don't want to say I'm not proud of it. I don't want to say I'm not ashamed of it. But yes, I've seen it 11, 12 times. Since you've had several more viewings and we're a month past the release, I was wondering where it stands now on your ranking. Thank you for what you do. Been watching since it was you and Andrew sitting at the table geeking out. Holy crap, dude. Been watching for a really, really long time. Actually, almost since the beginning, because I think only the first few episodes, like the first year, it was just me and Andrew sitting around the table talking. For those of you that don't know, I used to have a buddy named Andrew that would help kind of run a little bit of this stuff and host the shows with me, and we just sit and talk Star Wars for a while. But he and I ended up going our separate ways, and it's just me now. And then Kirsty once in a while, whenever she decides to be a part of one of the videos. But as far as Last Jedi goes, I've seen it 11 or 12 times, and I've actually seen it more since then now. I've seen it one other time. So I'm either at 12 or 13 at this point. Where would does it still stand on my ranking? Yes, it does. For those of you that don't know, and before I touch on this, for what I'm about to say, I have lost viewers. I've lost subscribers. I have had people go off on me, tell me that they're not going to watch my stuff anymore because of this opinion. And I don't care. All right. I do not care. You're not punishing me for my opinion like that. I don't take it as a punishment. I don't care. the way I look at it, I'm not out for the most subscribers. I'm out for the best subscribers. And as of now, I've got the best subscribers. So, and what I mean by best subscribers, somebody who is willing to allow somebody else their opinion, whether it differs from theirs or not, and still get along peacefully. You can respectfully disagree with somebody without insulting them. All right, you can do that. All right, so, and I have an opinion that differs from a lot of people, and I don't care. This is my opinion. All right, and this is just the way I look at it. So with that being said, yes, it still stands as the number one Star Wars movie for me. It is at the top of my ranking. Empire was there for a really long time. Force Awakens didn't quite top Empire for me. It was probably third on the list, if I remember right. And then Rogue One came out, and I loved Rogue One, right? But I didn't jump on the bandwagon right off the bat with Rogue One. I watched it a couple times and then was like, yes, I'm ready to name this as my favorite Star Wars movie, because I enjoyed what Rogue One had to offer. And then Last Jedi came along, and I didn't think Last Jedi was going to top Rogue One, in my opinion, just because it was going to take so much to top Empire, and Rogue One did it. I didn't think it was going to happen 2 movies in a row. Excuse me. But I went and saw Last Jedi, and I really wanted to say it that night, but I didn't. I watched it a few more times. I slept on it. I considered a lot of things. Watched the original trilogy again, and Last Jedi and Rogue One all again, and finally watched Last Jedi again and was like, you know what? This is my absolute favorite Star Wars movie. And it's close. It is really close to Rogue One. They're like, I mean, they're just like right here, but you know, Last Jedi is just, and there's just a few, and like, I don't want to say it's the nostalgia factor that pushes it over either, because both have the nostalgia factor, right? But there are certain things about Last Jedi that I didn't realize, I keep saying this, I didn't realize my soul needed it, you know? Over the last few years, I've been through a lot with, you know, certain family members pulling themselves from my life and losing certain people in my life, and, you know, going through different trials and tribulations, that to actually be able to go and sit down for a Star Wars movie, right, that I already knew I was going to love, but to have scenes like Yoda, the Force Ghost of Yoda coming back happen, I didn't realize I needed that. I thought I was doing just fine on my own, all things considered, until I saw Last Jedi, and then I realized that was the outstretched hand I needed to get me through a lot of stuff. It's weird. It makes sense in my head. It's just, it may not make sense to you guys, but it makes sense to me. Like the Yoda scene, that just, it did so much for me in here that I can't even like put it to words. I can't put words to it. Just things about that movie that, I mean, it was the last time we saw Carrie Fisher on screen. It's, you know, it's her final role as Princess Leia, and her best, bar none. It was at her absolute best. It's just things, the way the film went with twists and turns and the plot twists and stuff. It's just, it was an unexpected Star Wars movie, but it was the Star Wars movie I feel like we needed. At least me personally, I needed. So, yes, Episode 8 is still ranked number 1 in my opinion. I know Rogue One and Last Jedi are like right there neck and neck, but I don't think I'm going to sleep on it and be like, you know what, I think I like Rogue One better today. I'm not going to do that. Last Jedi is by far my favorite, and that's the unpopular opinion, I know, among a lot of people. I lost subscribers over saying Rogue One was my favorite, and I don't care. Like, here's the way I look at it is, if you don't respect my opinion enough to respectfully disagree with me, then I don't need you watching my channel anyway. You're not the kind of fan I want to talk to about Star Wars. You're not the kind of person I don't want to talk to about Star Wars. Somebody that will sit down and debate with you respectfully, you know, and is willing to take a step back and look at it from your point of view. Those are the kind of people I want to interact with, and those are the kind of people that I interact with the most. And I love talking to you guys that have that kind of attitude, and I absolutely love it. And Last Jedi is a big contention point for, at least for this channel, with me. I've had a lot of people go off on me about it. So that's my opinion. That's what I'm sticking to. I'm standing by it, and that's just the way I feel. I'm not going to change my opinion just to jump on some bandwagon and sign a petition to get it stricken from canon. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay true to what I feel, and that's what I feel. So thanks for the question, Cameron. I really, really appreciate it. I'm sorry, I'm getting stopped up, and I'm really glad to have you as a follower, especially a longtime follower. Back in those days, man, that's crazy. And if you go back and watch those videos, they're not the greatest. Matter of fact, they were shot on this cell phone right here. All those old videos, they were shot on this phone. We actually, believe it or not, we had a music stand and a guitar capo, and we clipped the guitar capo to the phone and onto the music stand, and that's what we recorded with. So it was very low tech. It was right after we started the Canon library, before I bought all the new computer and the monitors and the cameras and the microphones and the lighting and everything like that. So it's awesome to have somebody following since those days that can kind of see how the channel's evolved and where we are now. And it's great to have you along, Cameron. It really is. Thanks for the question. Question number 5 this week comes from Joshua Thomas. And Joshua says, I'm assuming if you are a Star Wars fan, you are a nerd geek fan all the way around. May of 2018 is coming quickly, and during that month we have Avengers Infinity War, Deadpool 2, and Solo all releasing in a 3-week span. Who's coming out first, second, and third? Thanks for the question, Josh. And I know this isn't just a hardcore Star Wars question. But it is Star Wars related, so I figured I would, and it's the next Star Wars film coming out, so I figured I'd touch on this. Yes, your assumption is correct. I'm a huge geek of anything and everything. As far as movies go, I hate to say it, man, Marvel's got it over DC, because I'm a DC guy. But Marvel's got it over DC. I can give credit where credit's due, right? DC has had a couple of really good movies, a couple of really crappy ones too, so Marvel's got it for the films, in my opinion. DC's got the comics, man, because Superman's my boy. If you guys watch, you know I'm always wearing Superman shirts. I've got a Superman shirt for every day of the year in there. So, yeah, I'm a nerd geek all the way around. Superheroes, Star Wars, even some Star Trek. Not a whole lot, but just a little bit of Star Trek once in a while. Just anything, man. Comic books, I've got, not only do I have my long box right here of my Star Wars canon comics, but I've got another box under that with a bunch of Spider-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy and Fantastic Four and all kinds of stuff in there. So, yeah, I'm a geek all the way around, but Star Wars for me is the top shelf, right? So, yes, you're correct in that assumption. And you're right. May of 2018, we actually talked about this on Breaking the Fourth Wall this past week with Chris Stolley. Yeah, May is going to be a big month for comic book fans and for geeks in general. We've got Avengers Infinity War, which is the culmination of 10 years of Marvel movies coming together. We've got Deadpool 2 like the week after that, or 2 weeks after that. It's 2 weeks after that. And then a week after that, we've got Solo coming out, man. And it's going to be an insane month. It's going to be one of those months where it's like, oh my God, I'm going to have to save some money back because we got to go to the movie theater 3 times. Because me and Kirsty to go to the movie theater without popcorn or anything, it's like $20-25 just for us to get in. So we're going to have to set back like $100 just to be able to go see these 3 movies, right? So, luckily it's right after tax time. Anyway, so, yeah, Avengers, Infinity War, Deadpool 2, and Solo all releasing within 3 weeks. It's going to be crazy, man. I can't wait for those 3 weeks. It's going to be insane. Who's coming out first, second, and third? All right, so this question could be asked 2 different ways, and I'm assuming it's the second of the 2. The first way, I'm assuming which one is coming out first, which one's coming out second, which one's coming out third, or which one is coming out as far as box office goes first, second, and third. So I'm going to answer it both ways just to make sure I answer your question correct. Avengers is coming out on May 4th. Deadpool is May 18th, and Solo is May 25th. So it goes in that order. Actually, the order you typed them is the order they're coming out in. But as far as box office goes, I'm assuming you're asking for my prediction. We talked about this, like I said, on Breaking the Fourth Wall, and I'm going to stick by my reasoning. I'm going to say this. I've thought a lot about it, and I'm like, man, I've looked at box office numbers and trends and you know, the up and down of the box office numbers. Avengers Infinity War is going to be number 1. I can tell you that right now. Every part of me as a Star Wars fan wants to say Solo's going to kick its ass, but it's not going to. All right, I'm a geek, but I'm also a realist. Avengers Infinity War is going to be number one out of those three. It's going to break $1 billion, no problem. No problem whatsoever, right? Avengers 1 made $1.5 billion. Avengers 2 made $1.4. This one's easily going to be in the ballpark, if not more than that, considering it's the culmination leading up to everything, and we're finally getting Thanos and the Infinity Stones. It's going to be a big one. So I'm going to say Avengers is number one. So that leaves Deadpool and Solo, right? Solo has the Star Wars brand, but it's also had quite a few problems as far as box office goes. Or no, I'm sorry, not as far as box office goes. It's not even out yet. You can tell I'm not feeling real great. But as far as production goes, is what I was trying to say. As far as production goes, as far as we don't have a trailer yet. As of the recording of this, we don't have a trailer yet. We have the synopsis, but it didn't tell us anything new that we didn't already know was going to happen in this, that we didn't assume was already going to happen. So Solo kind of has the Star Wars name working for it, but it's also got this publicity behind it, right? Now, you got to look at it this way also. The general movie-going audience probably doesn't know about all the drama behind Han Solo, behind the movie, the production of it, right? Us sweaties do. We knew about the problems with Rogue One also, and we still went and saw Rogue One. But not as many people were crying about Rogue One because they didn't have a young Han Solo in it. So I don't really... Solo's kind of a wild card in my opinion. I don't really know how it's going to go as far as box office goes. But I'm going to say it's going to beat Deadpool 2. So I'm going to say Solo is number 2 and Deadpool's number 3. Deadpool is going to rake in a lot of cash, and it's going to be close, man. I'm going to call that right. It's going to be really close, but I'm going to say number 1 is going to be Avengers, 2 is going to be Solo, and 3 is going to be Deadpool 2. And I'm not crapping on Deadpool 2. I love Deadpool 1. I can't wait for Deadpool 2. But that's, like I said, I'm a realist. You've got Marvel and Star Wars, two of the most successful movie franchises of today, going up against each other, and then you've got Deadpool coming up the rear. Like, it's it's Deadpool, so I guess it wouldn't. Never mind, I'm not going to touch on what I just said. So I'm going to say Avengers, Deadpool, and then, Avengers, Solo, then Deadpool as far as box office goes. And we're really not going to know that until probably July, once we finally get the numbers in for full worldwide run for Solo. So we're just going to have to kind of wait and see how that goes, but that's my prediction. Thanks for the question, Josh. I'm glad you sent that in. It's a good question. All right, so question number 6 this week comes from Richard Marquard. And Richard says, "Hey, Brian, been watching your videos for about a year now. We met at the cinema opening night for The Last Jedi and talked quite a while about Star Wars in general." I do remember you, Richard. I really do. I had a blast talking to you. What I never asked was how you got into Star Wars in the first place. It's a question I love asking any Star Wars fan, and was wondering if you'd indulge me. Thanks, and keep up the great work. I will be more than glad to indulge you, Richard. First off, it was awesome meeting you at the cinema. It was awesome meeting everybody there that I actually got to sit down and talk to, especially some of the new followers we gained from that night. It's awesome having you guys on board as well. But to answer your question, how did I get into Star Wars in the first place? Everybody has their story, right? About where they were the first time they saw Star Wars. Nobody ever forgets it, right? The first time I ever saw Star Wars, my first exposure to Star Wars wasn't even a movie, believe it or not. And it was like 94, might have been 94 or 95. And Micro Machines was doing these toys. They were like little busts of the characters, like the head, and then they would open up into a play set with a bunch of little figures, and each one was like a different planet, different setting, right? And the first one I got was Darth Vader, which was Cloud City. I'd never seen Star Wars in my life. I'd never even seen a second of Star Wars. But it just looked cool. The toy looked cool, so I bought it, right? And it was Cloud City. I didn't know this at the time, but it was Cloud City. And it had the little dial in it where you could turn the dial, and Han Solo and Carbonate would come out of the floor. And at the top, it had the little clear window that Luke got thrown out of during his duel with Vader, stuff like that. And I love that toy, right? I mean, it had to have been 95, so I was probably 6 or 7 years old, something like that. But I got this toy, and I started playing with it. And then very soon after that, my mother told me, which my mother saw the original Star Wars in cinema, by the way. My grandfather took her to see Star Wars for the first time when it was in cinema. And I'd always been jealous of anybody who got to see it that way. But she told me that they were coming on Sci-Fi Channel. This movie called Star Wars was, and the two sequels. They were coming on, like one night they were doing Star Wars, and then 2 nights later they were doing Empire, and 2 nights later they were doing Return of the Jedi. And my mom was like, hey, do you want to watch Star Wars? And I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'll give it a shot. So I sat down with my toy, right? And I'm just like any 5 or 6 year old is going to do. I'm sitting there looking for where my toy pops up in the movie, right? And I watched Star Wars for the first time with my mother that night. Commercials included. They even put commercials during the movie, right? But she recorded it for me on a VHS tape, and she'd stop the recording whenever it went to commercials, and whenever it was getting ready to come back on, she'd hit record again. And so I had all 3 of them on one cassette tape, right? And I sat there the whole time just like, oh my God, this is so cool. This is so cool. And from that moment on, it was everything Star Wars. Every picture I ever drew, every short story I ever wrote, every stick that I turned into a lightsaber. I mean, everything was Star Wars. And every toy I bought, it's just, that's what it was Star Wars. And I had to have worn that VHS tape. I don't even know where that VHS tape is now. There's no clue where it ever ended up at. It's lost over the years. I wish to God I could have it again just for like a nostalgia thing. Just like I say, this is the tape with my first, like, I wish to God I had it, but I don't. But that was the first time I ever saw Star Wars. And then, just a couple years later is when they did the special editions in 97, and my mother took me and my sister to go see them, all 3 of them. And it was like one a week, I believe is what it was. I think it was one every week, I think is how they were released. I could be wrong, but that's what I remember was like every Friday for 3 Fridays we went and saw a Star Wars movie in the cinema. So I kind of got to see the original Star Wars movies in the theaters, but it wasn't. We all know how the special editions turned out, right? It wasn't the theatrical versions, but I still got to see it on the screen as a kid, which to me was so cool seeing it on the big screen like that. But yeah, that was the first time I really got to see. That was my first exposure to Star Wars. And for those of you that know, my mother and I don't speak anymore. We've kind of had a falling out, and it's a really, really, really long story. A lot of family drama, blah blah blah. Everybody has family drama, right? So, but yeah, she's the one that got me into Star Wars, and it's what it's been ever since. And I actually had the realization this year that I've been a Star Wars fan for 22 years. And I'm just like, God, it doesn't feel like 22 years at all. Like, I've been a fan longer than Star Wars had been out when I went and saw it, the special editions. Like, it's weird to think about it that way. But, yeah, I mean, it's ebbed and flowed a couple times where it was, like, really hardcore when I was a kid. And then it kind of got to where it was like, yeah, okay, Star Wars is kind of cool. Excuse me. And now Star Wars is back, so it's everything Star Wars, right? So, thanks for the question, Richard. Guys, let me know your story in the comment section below. Where was the first time you guys saw Star Wars? What was your first exposure to it? I'd really like to read about your guys' first experience. Let me know in the comment section below. I cannot wait to read those. So thanks for the question, Richard. I really appreciate it. All right, and the last question this week comes from C. Thomas, who actually emailed us through the website. And C. Thomas says, since when can Force ghosts interact with the physical plane? In The Last Jedi, Yoda bops Luke on the head with his cane and calls down Force lightning to burn the tree. How is this possible? And since it is possible, do you think we'll get a Force ghost Luke and Force ghost Snoke in a lightsaber battle in Episode 9? Thanks for the question, C. Thomas. I don't know what your name was either. That's all it said was C. Thomas. Okay, so there's a few questions in this, right? All right, the first one is, since when can Force ghosts interact with the physical plane? Always. Force ghosts have always been able to interact with the physical plane. You want proof? Watch Return of the Jedi when the Force ghost of Obi-Wan is walking through the swamp towards Luke after Yoda dies, right? You can see vines brushing off of his shoulder as he walks through. Things are moving, right? So he's in a form, like, it's kind of in a physical form there, right? A physical version, right? There is material there. And he was able to sit on the log next to Luke. Excuse me. So they can interact with the physical plane, right? At the end of Return of the Jedi, Yoda's Force Ghost is sitting on the rail in the Ewok village. They can interact with the physical plane, right? I look at Force Ghost as they materialize. They're not illusions, right? They actually materialize. They are physical manifestations of the Force. That's the way I've always looked at it. But yeah, they've always been able to interact with the physical plane. I don't know why everybody's so surprised that he was able to bop Luke on the head with his cane, which I thought was hilarious, by the way. Like I said, this is my favorite scene in The Last Jedi. It makes sense, right? Because they're made of the Force. Now him calling down the Force lightning, he is the Force. Yoda is literally one with the Force. That's what they say when they say, this is what they mean when they say they became one with the Force, right? They are part of the Force. They are the Force. So they can call down, the Force surrounds everything, right? It surrounds it's between everything. So you can do stuff like that, right? It's no different than a Sith Lord calling down, like using Force lightning. You can manifest lightning. It's no different, right? So I don't know why everybody's upset about that either. I don't want to say upset, but knocking that. But I want to get to the interesting part of your question now. Not that all of it wasn't interesting. I'm just saying the more interesting part of it. Since it is possible, do I think we'll get a Force Ghost Luke and Force Ghost Snoke lightsaber battle? How bizarrely cool would that be to see two Force Ghosts with lightsabers just going at it, right? Because, like, what's the point of a lightsaber battle if you're already dead? Like, really, like, think about it, right? So, I don't think we're going to get a Force Ghost lightsaber battle, right? I don't think that's ever going to happen. But, as of right now, there's nothing in canon at all that says a dark side Force user can even have a Force Ghost. There's nothing in canon that says they can. As a matter of fact, as far as the EU stuff goes, I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, and let me know in the comments, I do believe they said Sith Lords couldn't have ghosts. And any manifestation of them afterwards was just simply an illusion of the dark side. I believe that's the way it went. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I really want to know, actually. So I'm assuming that's carried over, where dark side Force users can't have a Force Ghost, because Yoda told Obi-Wan, I have training for you, so you have to actually meditate and learn how to do this Force Ghost thing, right? Except for Anakin, which he was the chosen one, so he was essentially, he was conceived to the midichlorians, he was the Force, so he just inherently, I guess, got the ability. So, I don't think Snoke can be a Force Ghost. Now, if I'm wrong, and Snoke does pop up as a Force Ghost, I want to see Force Ghost Luke and Force Ghost Snoke go at it. Like, just a battle of the wills, right? All Force abilities. You know, what's the point of a lightsaber? Just use the Force to annihilate one another, right? That's something I would love to see. Why make the final battle of Episode 9 a physical battle when you could make it this epic Force plane, spirit plane battle of the minds, right? Like, that would be so cool to see. And I'm almost convinced we're not going to see the lightsaber thing with the Force Ghost. I was really convinced we were going to see Luke and Snoke go toe to toe in Episode 9 with lightsabers. That was before both of them freaking died, but yeah, that would be really cool. But if we're going to do the Luke Snoke thing, afterlife battle, it's going to be a battle of the wills, battle of just pure Force energy, which could actually be really cool to see on the big screen. So we'll see. We're going to definitely see Luke in Episode 9 as a Force Ghost. I can promise you we're going to see Luke again. As far as Snoke goes, man, I really don't know if we're going to see Snoke again. And I know everybody's upset because we didn't get a lot of history on Snoke. I don't care. I just don't care. You know, I like the mystery. But I'm not going to say I wouldn't read a Snoke novel if it came out. But I like the mystery. They can never touch on him again and I'd be alright with it. But thanks for the questions, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this mailbag up. I've already been going for almost 45 minutes. So, guys, thank you so much for sending in the questions. Thank you guys so much for being viewers. This channel wouldn't be anything without you guys at all, and I am so grateful for each and every one of you guys. If you guys like this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you really like it, hit that subscribe button. And if you guys want to get a question on the Star Wars Canon Library, like I said earlier in the video, just simply email it to us at starwarscanonlibrary@gmail.com. I do mailbags every Monday, upload them Monday evening, so that they're probably live about Tuesday. I probably should start filming on Sunday and upload them Monday, but yeah, if you guys want to get a question on, just simply email it to us that way. Make sure to visit the Facebook page as well. It is just the Star Wars Canon Library. And make sure to visit the website where we have all of the canon material in chronological order for you guys. It is www.starwarscanonlibrary.com. Until next time, guys, this is Brian signing off. I'm about to go drink some hot tea and play some Assassin's Creed. Until next time, may the Force be with you. Hey guys, make sure to check out the website. It is www.starwarscanonlibrary.com. You can email us anytime with any questions for any Star Wars canon material whatsoever. It's just starwarscanonlibrary@gmail.com. Make sure to check out our Facebook page as well. It is facebook.com/starwarscanonlibrary. If you guys like this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. There's plenty more videos coming where this one came from. If you really liked it, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'd sure appreciate it.